Ghazghkull Thraka, the grand warlord prophet of Gork and Mork. Ghazghkull Mag Uluk Thraka is a mighty prophet of the Wog, capable of rousing entire planetary populations of orcs into a frenzy of conquest and bloodshed. He is the single most influential greenskin in the galaxy, and billions march to war in his name. Even more terrifying since his near death on Krongar, Ghazghkull has returned bigger and badder than ever before. Ghazghkull started his career as a common Goth warrior on the backwater planet of Ork. During a raid upon a Space Marine's command sanctum, Ghazghkull caught a bolter shell to the face that poked a large green area of his cranium and caused extensive brain damage. A Death Skull's pain boy by the names of Mad Doc Grotznik was close to hand and replaced part of Ghazghkull's cerebrum with bionics made from adamantine. This experimental augmentation had two distinct side effects besides preventing Ghazghkull's demise. Firstly, it afforded even greater protection to what was left of his brain. Secondly, and most crucially for the wider galaxy, Grotznik's surgery also triggered something deep within Ghazghkull's mind. A manic, new glint had entered his blood-red eyes. Fresh drive and ambition invigorated his formerly unremarkable existence. Ghazghkull claimed to be receiving visions sent by Gork and Mork themselves, visions that urged him on to power and conquest. From that day, Ghazghkull's rise to power was meteoric. Those orcs of Ork who didn't fall in line were rapidly bludgeoned into submission. Ghazghkull had brawn and belligerence enough to establish his dominance over the entire world. Few of his subjects gave much thought as to whether the new warlord was really talking to the gods, or simply a delusional megalomaniac. When the planet's star began to flicker and perish, Ghazghkull hailed this as a sign from Gork and Mork that it was time for the Wog to depart this world and to stomp the galaxy flat. By some dark quirk of fortune, Ghazghkull and his hordes were able to capture and board the Space Hulk World Killer in their moment of need and set off across the stars, bursting into real space after an arctic span of time spent in the warp Wog. Ghazghkull emerged into a rich, prosperous imperial system. They wasted no time in falling upon its capital, Armageddon, a world that would make Ghazghkull's name. Armageddon, the world of Armageddon, was a rich hub of commerce, military industry, and transportation that lay upon a key warp route towards the Segmentum Solar. It was well resourced and heavily defended by naval assets, regiment upon regiment of Astra Militarum, and a mighty complement of the Iron Skull's Titan Legion. For all this, the Armageddon wasn't ready for Ghazghkull. Not only did the visionary warlord have immense numbers and overwhelming momentum on his side, Armageddon's planetary governor, Herman von Straub, was also a disastrously incompetent egomaniac. Straub's piecemeal attempts to deal with what he sneeringly viewed as the Orks' irritant, while keeping up appearances with the wider Imperium, played right into Ghazghkull's jagged claws. Wog! Ghazghkull rampaged across the continent of Armageddon Prime, crushing each regiment of planetary defenders and cannibalizing their wrecked tanks. As one bastion after another fell, still Straub did not send for aid. Instead, this duty was taken up by a redoubtable Imperial commissar named Yark, an act of disobedience for which he was exiled to remote Hive Hades. Meanwhile, Ghazghkull's cords crossed the green hell of Armageddon's equatorial jungles where Straub had claimed they would not tread. Having reached the continent of Armageddon's Secundus, they crushed the Iron Skull Titans and left their graffiti-scrawled wreckage to burn. Ghazghkull himself led the storming of Hive Infernus. Just as the season of storms descended, he loosed wild war bands of speed freaks into the ash wastes to run down refugees and retreating Imperial military assets as they tried to reach the safety of the Hive cities further south. In desperation, Salb unleashed his ancient stockpile of virus bombs, but amidst the tight-packed battlefields of Armageddon, Secundus, human casualties from these indiscriminate weapons were as severe as those suffered by the Orks. All the while Ghazghkull drove his Wog onward with unbreakable determination, crushing Hive Hellsreach despite the suicidal courage of the city's defenders. Then came the siege of Hive Hades, and with it a sudden change of the fortunes of war. Under the leadership of the exiled Commissar Yark, Hive Hades' defenders fought as if possessed. So spectacular was the battle, so slow the Ork advance, that Ghazghkull came to lead the siege in person, showing cunning far in excess of the average Goth warlord. Ghazghkull employed all the tactics and stratagems he could dream up, but Yark countered each new scheme. Orks fought volunteer defense militia along with every processional at every barricade, and even though the Hive's myriad ducks and crawlways in Yark, Ghazghkull had met an enemy worth the fight. The Grand Warlord swiftly became obsessed with defeating this tenacious and respected foe. I'm de hand in de gamok and mok. I'm de prophet in de wog. And whole world's burning my boot prints. We is gonna stomp the universe flat and kill anything that fights back. We is gonna do this 'cause we's Orks, and we was made to fight and win. Grand Warlord Ghazghkull. Mag-Ork, thraka, abridged quotation. Orks is the best. Goths is the best Orks. War bosses, they's the best Goths. And Ghazghkull, he's the best of the lot. I'm telling you now, the fear ripping the galaxy and Alf is Gork's big green gun. And why is he grinning, lads? 'Cause it's our time. Obsession is both the strength and weakness of the Orks. The same tendencies that make them relentless foes, reckless pilots and prolific, if manic, inventors, also lead them to ruin. So it was with Ghazghkull at Hive Hades, the meat grinder around the besieged hive. Sucked in ever more Ork material and warriors, leaving those warbands assailing Hive Tartarus and Hive Archer on ill-directed and short of reinforcements, when Imperial support showed up in the form of Ultramarines, Salamanders and Blood Angels, Space Marines. The secondary Ork hordes could not hold, even beset as the greenskins were by freshly arrived Adeptus Astartes. Ghazghkull did not give up. He again proved his superiority to most greenskins by recognizing the damage his obsession had caused and setting plans in motion to redress the balance. Now, though, he faced the unified strategic brilliance of Blood Angels, Commander Dante and his allied Space space marine commanders, coupled with Yarek's hideously costly defense of the ruined hive Hades. Ghazghkull's wog was at last broken. Nearly every orc warlord in history has gone down fighting alongside their warband. Not so Ghazghkull. He fled Armageddon, leaving the world infested with scattered greenskins, and vowing to one day return. After all, Armageddon has put up the best fight Ghazghkull would ever experience. He wasn't about to pass up a chance to enjoy that all over again. Makari, if a monster as terrifying as Ghazghkull could be said to have anything approaching a soft spot, it is for his favored banning-waving grot, Makari. This pugnacious little runt has stood by Ghazghkull's side for a remarkable count of years, hefting his boss's wog banner, waving it about as enthusiastically as his skinny little arms allow. Ghazghkull takes a perverse pride in Makari's longevity and prosperity. Good fortune. The number of enemies that slipped in oil or had their weapons malfunction just as they were about to squash Ghazghkull's pet grot defies explanation. This said, what no orc has the heart, or indeed nerve, to tell Grand Warlord is that even Makari didn't last forever. At last tally, several dozen Makaris have trotted obediently behind Ghazghkull into the fires of battle, and each time one perishes, sat on by a squigoff, or caught in a death strike missile blast, or simply keeling over from old age. They are quietly and forcibly replaced before Ghazghkull had a chance to notice his tragic loss. Greater things. 57 years to the day after his defeat at Armageddon, Ghazghkull returned to the head of a still more enormous wog. The planet's defenders had spent decades rebuilding and fortifying against the coming of the Grand Warlord, who they now knew as the Beast of Armageddon. Yet Ghazghkull had also not been idle. He had spent years fighting one brutal conflict after another, both to subjugate rival warbands and also to test perfect strange new weapons, technologies, against which his enemies could not hope to be prepared. Many and exhaustive are the accounts of the conflict that followed. Ghazghkull brought a war that his enemies and even a number of his own underlings were utterly wrong-footed by. The Grand Warlord had mercenary freebooters strike at agri worlds, shipping around Armageddon, both to choke off supply routes and to spread terror. At his approach, he hit the system with multiple, roughly coordinated orc fleets, the better to encircle and destroy the Imperial naval defense. Rather than get drawn into another fight for Hive Hades, Ghazghkull had his space Orks deploy tractor beams, using them to ensnare asteroids before releasing them on Hades from low orbit. He unleashed drop fortresses known as rocks, built scrap iron submersibles to cross the planet's storm-lashed oceans, and directed super teleporters to beam towering war effigies directly into battle. For all this, the Imperium hurled in tides of reinforcements. The battle for Armageddon became an endless, grinding war of attrition. Despite all Ghazghkull's best efforts, as the conflict ground on, so the Grand Warlord suffered increasingly painful and garish visions sent by Gork and Mork. And then, with no warning, all Ghazghkull was simply gone. Some say the Grand Warlord experienced an all-mating megavision in which Gork and Mork charged him with a new task. Others say the great green gods plucked Ghazghkull up and cast him across the stars as a spur of action. Others still claim he was simply struck by inspiration and ambition, according to official yet obscurely unlikely Imperial propaganda, that he simply turned tail and fled. Whatever the case, Ghazghkull's departure from Armageddon appears to have come just before Gork's grin split across the galaxy. After it did, strange reports started to reach Imperial sources of the Beast of Armageddon, leading planetary invasions. In sectors many light years apart, Shirley said those few observers, with the ability to piece the reports together, some accounts had been mistaken. There was no way Ghazghkull could be in so many places at once, in defiance of all logic. However, the attacks continued. What no one yet realized was that Ghazghkull had been embarked upon his greatest plan to date. He no longer led a Wog, but rather the Great Wog. He had set himself against not a single world, not a single system or species, but the entire galaxy. And in order to fight and beat every last sentient being that could be found amongst the stars, he had planned to gather the totality of Ork species to his boss pole or die trying. Since Ghazghkull began this seemingly impossible endeavor, strange things have been occurring. More Ork Wog than ever before are springing up, in disproportionate number traveling unerringly toward whatever Ghazghkull at the moment, of course, with the Grand Warlord plunging in and out of Gork's grin like a lunatic. This still has seen many Ork tribes rampaging back and forth across the scars in a seemingly random and arctic vanishing. Yet gradually, more and more Orks are rallying to Ghazghkull's side. With each fresh influx, he clobbers whatever big brute warlord seeks to challenge him, and folds their followers into his own teeming ranks. Even those who seek to stop Ghazghkull's rampage only seem to lend him more impetus. Every rival he beats down increases his notoriety. When worlds such as Karaheim and Obstinos put up resolute defense against his invading hordes, Ghazghkull's only won greater renown when he finally crushed them. Rumor has it that the Aldari crafts ruled Altiok, and the savage warriors of the Space Wolves chapter have both taken their turn in striking at the Grand Warlord in the hopes of slaying him and thus breaking his great Wog. The latter came closest to achieving their aim. The mighty Wolf Lord Ragnar Blackmane met Ghazghkull in battle upon the hive world of Krognar, almost sealing both combatants in mutual destruction. Yet even as the broken Blackmane was being borne across the Rubicon Primaris following his crippling injuries, so was Mad Dog Grotsnake's recapitating his beloved warlord onto a mighty new Sapa Ork body that he had spent many decades perfecting. So it is that Ghazghkull Thraka is now bigger and more terrifying than ever, boasting an armored bulk more akin to a Gorkanaut than a war boss. Ghazghkull's soul also wields weaponry to match. Gork's claw is so vast that its blades can enfold a fully armored Primaris Space Marine and slice them neatly into steaming chunks. Mork's roar, his custom shooter, generates so much daka that its victims don't so much die as simply evaporate into a red haze. Ghazghkull is a living war engine, a walking embodiment of Gork and Mork, and the greatest prophet of the Wog to bestride the stars in millennia. He is coming for the entire galaxy. Some begin to fear that it's a fight he just might win.